sometimes when we work with students, and because of the way that we operate Monday through Friday, it's important that students have some things taken care of. How are they going to get back and forth? Do they have reliable transportation? Do they have reliable child care if that's an issue? Funding is generally not a problem with the TCATs. We're generally, with the help of Pell, and also, of course, the Tennessee Promise coming on board and the Wilder Navy Technical Skills Grants. Money is not always an issue for students to make tuition, but they do need to make sure that they know how they're going to take care of some of the other issues in their life that pop up, emergencies. And so it's best that students sort of think that through before they start. The next thing the student needs to do is to choose a program area that they want to register for. And by program area, I mean if they want to go into mechatronics, advanced manufacturing, if they want to go into welding, automotive, an allied health program, they choose that program and complete their application. Well, number one, I would want students to really be ready to realize that they will be coming to school, that it is college, there will be rigor. One of the things we do that's a little different from some colleges is we take attendance, and attendance matters greatly to a student. We also do something called worker characteristics, where we work with students and grade students on their abilities to work in teams, communicate, their attendance, those sorts of things. They receive a grade every term for those different items, because that's real important to business and industry. So I'd want students to know that this is serious, this is not fun and games. They're working with some really high-powered equipment, so safety is at the forefront in every program. And so we work very hard with those students to help them understand and make that transition.
Students declare their major as soon as they are accepted into the college, because we've found that students that have a better sense of what their end goal is, i.e. I want to focus on allied health, or health sciences, or I want to focus on humanities, they're more likely to stay on track. Students at all levels of post-secondary education change their majors, and this is because they usually catch a spark in a course that they were just taking as an elective. For example, some business majors may take a philosophy class and be turned on by the fact of Socrates and the allegory of the cave. So it's interesting to see that there is some change as they go through their coursework. So this is a normal process. When they're just starting, the most important person to a student is the academic advisor, and the other person that's the most important person to them would be their faculty member. Students signing up for courses have to be aware of their own personal schedules, such as, do they work part-time? Do they have family commitments? Are they taking care of an elder parent or a grandparent? And when they meet with an advisor, they get a better sense of the course offerings that are morning, afternoon, and in the evening. The faculty member is also a person of great assistance to the student, because they provide them with a foundation that gives them a better sense of how long it might take me to get to my end goal, such as, do I want to simply complete a 2-year degree, or do I want to move from the 2-year institution to a 4-year institution? High school students should be aware of the fact that they need to start the process of admission to community colleges early. The earlier they start, the better off they'll be. The FAFSA process is something that you shouldn't wait until the last minute to do, as well as making sure that you're looking at the majors and making sure that whatever is offered is something that you're actually interested in whichever community college you decide to go to. Thirdly, I would say that if they're interested in extracurricular activities, they should also think about what types of extracurricular activities are offered at that community college, and be aware that if it's not offered, it doesn't mean that they can't start it. We love to engage students in what their interests are, so we're very open to starting new things at community colleges. The pitfalls that students should avoid in starting their career at a community college is to make sure that they do things in a timely fashion. It is important that they get ahead of financial aid, that they get ahead of purchasing their books. Something that comes to mind as an example, students sometimes wait until after courses start to purchase their books, and they don't realize that on the first day of courses, there are assignments being given out. So they're at a disadvantage if they don't move forward and be proactive in buying the things that are necessary for their academic success over the course of the semester. To ensure a student's going to be successful at a community college, they need to do several things. One, show up to class. Secondly, develop a relationship or rapport with their advisor and or faculty members. Also, during the first day or the first 2 weeks of class, students should make sure that they share their telephone numbers or emails with someone who's sitting close to them, just in case of an emergency, so that they don't miss class notes or that they don't miss something that's an extra assignment. This typically will assist them with being successful at a community college. The most important thing a student can do in terms of progressing towards their degree is go to class.
Students change their major pretty often. It's very uncommon for a student not to change their major when they come to an institution, somewhat because there's a lot of small tweaks that can be made to an academic program. You can add a minor, you can change the concentration in a major. For example, if a student comes in agribusiness and switches the major over to agritourism, something like that. It's a very small switch. That may just mean a switch of maybe 5 or 10 courses, but it is a major change. Then we have some students who come in dead set on maybe studying business, and they get into the courses and they feel that this is not the right fit for them, and they change over to maybe a sociology major, and that's very common and also not too difficult to deal with at the college level as well. It is very important to put a lot of thought in a student's academic major to make sure there's as few changes as possible because each major requires different courses to graduate as fast as possible, or in that 4-year plan. It is important to make as few changes as possible. Although we have students that change their major 1, 2, even 3 times and still graduate in 4 years. For a student to be successful and progress academically through their program of study, one of the biggest things that we've seen at 4-year schools is that students need to go to class. Students a lot of times think it's okay, since attendance is not taken into class, to miss a class. It is not okay to miss a class. A student really should go to every class, and if they miss a class, they need to be very adamant about following up with their peers or their professor to see what went on in that class, and it can't be a habit to miss a class. Missing a class should be a very rare exception. Another great way for the students to progress is to really communicate effectively. Don't be afraid to ask for help, to communicate with their academic advisor and the faculty or the professors that are in their classrooms regularly, to keep in touch with their campus email or whatever avenue the college uses to communicate with the student. A lot of colleges are still using email to communicate with the students. Facebook there are a few times that maybe Facebook posts are given out for general deadlines and payment deadlines and that sort of thing, but email can be used very strategically to pinpoint specific students that need specific things. So it's very important for a student to stay in touch with their email or whatever mode of communication the college has chosen. Get involved on campus. Be honest with you, a student that's happier on a college campus is more likely to progress academically. So getting involved in campus organizations, whether it be religious organizations or Greek organizations, or just getting involved in any kind of campus activities, fairs, bands, music events that play on campus is very important. Another part is to get to know your professors. The professors are often very interested in getting to know each individual student. I would say another one is probably don't work too much. It's very tempting for a student to work themselves through college. We really don't recommend, if a student's taking a full-time schedule, 15 hours of courses or so, we really don't recommend a student working more than 10 hours per week. And that sounds pretty strange to a student to say, well, I've got 15 hours of courses per week. Well, I can obviously do another 10 hours of work and fit that in very easily. What we have to remind students is that college classes typically pile up very quickly. And if a student is not able to walk away from all responsibility that they have with work and even some part with family, that they may not do as well, because the student that can do best academically is a student who is most flexible in their schedule. Maybe one week they have 0 exams, the next week they have 5 exams, and they need to be able to walk away from other responsibilities, or not really have a lot of other set responsibilities that they have to do to make sure they can commit more to their academics. A lot of it just comes down to balance, balancing healthy habits. Make sure they eat right, make sure they go to class, make sure they have maybe a small work schedule, make sure they exercise regularly, sleep regularly. A lot of those things can really significantly affect a student's ability to progress through toward their degree.